G'day guys, Sweaty here and welcome back to City Skylines Miami. In today's episode we're going to begin work on the downtown, just the infrastructure and primarily just the road infrastructure. Actually, in fact, I think that's all I do in this episode is get down the road. And I do place down a couple of buildings just to get an idea of what I want the skyline to look like, but not a huge amount of work, I guess, in terms of, you know, well, actually a lot of work was done, but it's only road work. I don't know how much, actually I'm pretty sure you guys enjoy these road work episodes and getting down the infrastructure, because I know that a lot of people struggle with this sort of stuff, and I think that this is the sort of stuff that I really enjoy doing the most. Probably why I always start new series. It's because I do enjoy doing the road work and figuring out where everything is going to go in the future. So that's what I'm going to be doing in this episode, putting down the infrastructure and also figuring out what the skyline is going to look like. Though I don't think it's going to stay like this. It's mostly just me placing down buildings and seeing what sort of buildings I have to play with, because I'm not playing with any extra buildings from the Steam workshop, so no custom assets. I have to only use the ones that are given within the base game and the DLCs, which is kind of tricky because, I mean, man, I've seen so many amazing buildings on the Steam workshop that would fit in so well with this series, and people keep on sending me stuff and going, dude, use this, but I can't. I'm not allowed to. I'm putting those restrictions on. I'm being really strict. Unfortunately, I'm only allowed to use what I have been given in the DLCs and the vanilla game. So yeah, that's gonna be a real struggle, but I have actually built the next episode. I built that pretty much as soon as I finished doing this one, and man, it's starting to look really good. So look forward to that, and we will get into a live play around the 15-minute mark. It's gonna be a pretty lengthy one, to be honest, and I'll be talking a bit more about the things that I'm getting up to. Before I do talk about the things that I'm getting up to, I just want to say, guys, thank you so much for jumping on board with this series. You guys are loving it, which is awesome. I'm really glad, because it's pretty different to the sort of stuff I do. Setting myself a lot of challenges this term. Setting myself a lot of challenges this year, trying to do some smaller series and work on some, you know, different sort of projects. And yeah, you guys are really keen on it, so thank you guys for jumping on board, and thank you to everyone who has been leaving me feedback. Keep it coming, because yeah, I really love reading your comments, especially from people who live in Miami or people who live around it or have been to Miami, because I haven't. I'm really going off Google Earth, and yeah, a lot of you guys are saying that I'm doing a fairly good job, so thanks guys, appreciate it. And on top of that, a lot of people have been mentioning how they really like the playlist, the music that I'm playing in this series, which again, thanks, because I put a lot of effort into choosing the right music for each of my series. None of them have the same music, it's always a different playlist. And that's really important to me, because I think that music plays a really big part in creating the atmosphere and the feeling towards movies and TV shows and video games as well. So I, you know, spending quite a lot of time trying to, you know, handpick the types of music for my videos. Still to this day, like, my favorite songs are from video games. Like the SimCity soundtracks are always amazing, and the Sims soundtrack I still listen to, and Minecraft soundtrack amazing. And I was like shamelessly listening to the Donkey Kong Country soundtrack like 5 minutes ago. So, you know, I think that music is very important, and I yeah, I always wanted to feel a certain way when you watch a different type of video on my channel. So with that being said, all the music that I'm choosing for Miami is all like 80s style synth pop sort of stuff, and I think it's pretty Miami-esque, so I hope that it fits the theme. I think it does, and if you guys are interested in listening to more of this sort of music, I've created a playlist with all the music and all the artists that I'm using for this series. I get all my music from Epidemic Sound, which is a website that you pay for a subscription, and then you get all this access to copyright-free music. If you just want to listen to the music, it's all pretty much on YouTube, and I've made a playlist with all that music in the description below. So if you want to check it out, go and check it out. The music's pretty cool, and if you do enjoy it, then go and check out the rest of the artists who create it, because I think they do a pretty banger job. Now, with all that being said, I should probably start getting into talking about the things that I've been up to on screen. I don't know how exciting it is. It's me just figuring out the roads, but basically this is the most important part, is figuring out where the main roads are going to go and then where all the streets and avenues spike off there, because basically like you want to make sure that these main roads are in really good locations and realistic locations too. So you want to make sure that they're going to hold the most amount of traffic, and you need to be thinking about this before actually even unpausing the simulation, which is basically, you know, kind of what I'm doing here. I know we already have 14,000 people living here, but yeah, like this whole area is, you're not going to see people start moving in until I actually figure out exactly where all the roads are going to go. And that might be a bit problematic, you know, if you're trying to make sure that your city is like running smooth and making sure that everything's going to be, you know, function the way that it should. And yeah, I don't have anything else to say about that. I'll probably spend too much time like guessing whereabouts, you know, the biggest traffic problems you're going to have. But like I said in the last episode, I generally work on a basis of realism and aesthetics first, and then functionality a close second, which is what I'm doing in this series as well. Want to try and make things look cool and practical, and then if it doesn't work, then I try and figure it out afterwards. But you know, each to their own, I guess. But I do have a lot of highways, you know, sort of snaking around the like whereabouts the downtown is going to sit, because I really love highways, like, you know, hugging around where the downtown is. I always do downtowns like this. I just think it kind of makes for an interesting type of environment. And this is pretty similar to Miami. There is actually a couple of highways that are around it, and a big old interchange too that I can also see sitting on my screen too. But I wanted to work on this one interchange that snaked its way all the way into the heart, and it actually ended within the downtown, which I thought was a pretty cool looking interchange and something that I wanted to do. Mine's definitely different. In fact, like pretty much all my roads are different, but I'm trying to get the vibe down. And I really love that there is all these like big snaky highways, just like, you know, snaking its way all the way around these buildings, and you know, it'd be pretty ugly, I think. And you know, it's a cool little contrast with the water, and you know, these like really nice looking buildings. Then you have all these highways that are just like, you know, going between all these buildings. So I wanted to do that. I wanted to you know, have all these different layers within this within this area, and I just thought it was like kind of cool, like seeing this whole highway just end within this downtown. So that is what I'm working on. I also worked on another highway just before, which basically connects up to Dodge Island, which I'm going to call Doge Island, and it's going to be like this really great industrial and seaport area, which I'll probably also put some kind of, and I've already got it there. Actually, do I already have it there? I can't remember. It might be in the next episode. I can't remember. But basically, I put down a you know, a passenger service, a cruise ship. That's what I'm looking for. I'm dancing around this word. I couldn't remember what it was. But yeah, I put a cruise ship terminal there, as well as some cargo and just some light industry, because we desperately needed it, and nothing's like set in stone. But I don't know why I'm talking about it now, because you'll see it a little later. Actually, I just saw it on screen. It's not there. It comes later. It must be at the end of this episode. But yeah, working on the highway first probably isn't like the smartest idea, because, you know, highways come last when it, you know, comes to city planning and design. You know, cities will always have the main roads and all, like, you know, originally there would all be dirt roads, right? When they, you know, first established the city, and then it's only within like the last like 100 years they actually start introducing these highways. But I like to think about where the highway is going to go, and it's kind of like backwards mapping, you know, like trying to figure out, you know, what the end product is going to look like, and then trying to think about how it got there, and, you know, as you continue working on it. Also, that highway that I was just talking about before, the one that ends within the downtown, it does this cool thing where it ends within the downtown, but the roads continue throughout, if that makes sense. So they turn into streets, but, you know, they've got intersections and stuff like that. So yeah, it's it's kind of an interesting design, and I like the way that it happened to work out like that. I'm also doing a thing where because I'm only using vanilla assets, I have to figure out exactly what I have to work with, because I don't want to like build the downtown and then realize I have this amazing asset sitting in my collection and didn't use it. So I've actually placed down all of the buildings that I think I'm going to use, and then I figure out where I want them to generally sit. But don't get too attached to where the buildings are. I do change practically all of them in the next episode. This is me like just figuring out what types of buildings I have and what types of, even the growables, I'm still like going, okay, are these the growables that I want to use? And then in the next episode, I get it pretty well established, which I'm pretty happy with. I'm also trying to figure out where I want the central station to sit, because the central station within Miami is a little bit different to the types of stations that I'm usually used to. This one is like much smaller. It's underdeveloped, but I'm pretty sure it's probably been finished since, you know, Google Earth was updated. And yeah, it's not that big. Probably because there's other terminals, I guess, you know, that train line sits with. But this is basically like a terminal station for passenger service trains, and then the metro connects up here, and then the monorail also connects up, which is something I'm going to be building in the next episode, which I'm pretty keen about because I really like monorails. They're pretty sick. So I'm going to be having a monorail that's going to snake its way all the way around the downtown, which would be pretty practical, I think. And the metro will also come too. So I was just like placing out a couple of buildings to figure out what I'm going to do for the central station, because I don't want to use the actual central station. I want to make my own because I'm crazy. I don't know how much I recommend that. I think the central station by itself looks pretty cool, but I don't know. I just want to do my own because why the hell not? Probably because I've already placed down the actual central station in Marble Mountain, so that's why. Miami's got this cool like islands too that I want to have within my city too. So it's different shape and it's probably going to look different later down the track, but I wanted to include it, so I've placed it down there. And now I'm starting to work on Dodge Island. So again, like I'm only just placing down things to see it function. None of this is going to stay this way. It looks really, really ugly. Okay, so just letting you know, this does not stay like this. I'm going to spend an entire episode working on this because I think it's going to be a pretty interesting build. I actually noticed that in Miami there is a underwater highway, I should say. Because I didn't realize that, but somebody mentioned it. So I might include that connects up to Dodge Island, but I'll see how we go. And also, guys, it's been really cool. I don't know, I did mention this in the beginning of the video, but it is so cool getting ideas from you guys. So please keep on hitting me up. All those people who live there and, you know, have experiences in Miami, because I do not. And, you know, somebody was telling me about the Everglades the other day, and I didn't know like how abruptly the city finishes when the outer suburbs are just like bam, Everglades, and that's it, which is so crazy. And it's gonna make me building this area so much easier because I don't have to think about how the city, you know, eventually turns into, you know, agriculture, or, you know, what sits on the fringes of the city. It's all I have to worry about is, you know, bam, there's some nature right there. So that's going to make things a lot easier, which is great. Which is really, really great. But obviously I won't do that for the entire place. So yeah, please hit me up, guys, because I don't know that much about Miami, just going off Google Earth. But like I said, figuring out what the skyline looks like, and I'm also figuring out what the color looks like within the city, in terms of color correction and stuff, which I nail in the next episode. This episode, not so much. It's getting there. It's a little bit dull for my liking, but the next episode, the color is pretty damn nice. So look forward to that. But we should get into the live play, and I'll tell you a little bit more about all the things that I got up to. Alright, so I've had the game on pause for about 7 or so minutes just to see how everything's running, and so far so good. There's a couple of problems I'm going to talk about in a second, but let's just start from the very beginning and check out some of the interchanges that we first started building with. And these ones, well this one in particular, I think is working really well. It's going to get a fair amount of traffic, I think. Because it does lead onto what is Dodge Island, which will have quite a lot of passenger services, quite a lot of passengers I should say coming into the city, and also there's going to be a fair amount of cargo here. I dare say it's going to stay somewhat the same, as in like the same amount of industry is going to be here, just, you know, placed differently, because this is pretty damn ugly. But I think that everything just here is working pretty fine. So I'm really happy with this. One area that I want to keep an eye on is this one here, because that's nothing really too significant, and besides that I think it's fine. Something that I do need to keep an eye on is this is going to start getting really messy with intersections, because this is going to have to be replaced with something a little bit more significant, because there's going to be a fair amount of people living over this section, and I think that will definitely not hold. So I think we'll have to put something that will, you know, support a bit of traffic just there. And if we're going to do something here, then this probably is a little bit too big for, you know, this probably just have to merge into the same intersection. So we'll work on that at some point. For now, it's fine. It's the least of our worries. This guy over here, interchange number 2. I really like this one. It is messy, it is a little bit squiggly and all over the place, but that's what I like about it. I like that it's just a bit of a mess and a little bit of an eyesore. I do really love like all these big highways just like stretching over the water around here. It looks like there was, you know, this interchange was definitely one of the last additions to the infrastructure of this downtown, you know, as they're just trying to support traffic a little bit more. So I do really like that about that intersection, and I think that at some point we're going to see a fair amount of people using it, which I think it's going to be able to sustain pretty well. The only thing I'm worried about is this. Like, I think this is going to get a little bit hectic at some point, but I think all this is pretty nice. And I've just been playing with some of the nodes just to fix them up, and they're all sort of matching up and, you know, fitting into where they need to be going. So I'm happy with that. I'm pretty happy with that one. The intersection that I'm a little bit worried about is this guy, and we are getting a fair amount of traffic. I mean, they're not using their lanes. If I had traffic precedent mod, which, you know, if I was going to play by the books, not play by the books I guess, if it's going to do things the way that I usually do it, traffic precedent mod would actually fix all this right up, because they are just sticking in one lane, which is just painful. But we're going to have to try and find a way of fixing this without using that mod. There could be two things that's going on here. Number one, I think it's this intersection here, which I've spoken about. And number two, which I'm going to try right now, is I think that most of these people are coming in because I've only really kept the game on pause for maximum of like 15 minutes. So let's just see what happens. I'm going to keep the game just running for the next, like, I don't know, 20 minutes. I'll go make a cup of tea and we'll see if anything improves. All right, we'll check back in a sec. All right, it's been about 10 minutes and you can see that things have already improved quite a lot. We've even bumped up our population by a fair bit, so I think most of those people were moving in. I haven't gone the full 20 minutes because basically we're only going to get more people over here. So I think that at some stage we're going to have to, yeah, we're going to fix it up. But for the time being, let's check out the next problem that I can foresee being an issue, and that's this one. Because what's happening is, like, people are, and I should have known this from before, but people are coming from the other side of the river, and then when they get to this intersection, they're obviously going to try and get to the downtown. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause it. I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to get rid of all this, and instead I'm going to drag a ramp so that it goes between these roads here and then connects up, and that way people don't have to like do a U-turn just to get over into the downtown, because to be honest, further on down the track, over here is actually going to be the outskirts of the cities. I don't really plan, well, I can't because there's limits, but I don't plan to go any further than this. So if anyone's going to be making the journey from over here and accessing, you know, going through this interchange, they're going to be going into the downtown. So I'm going to fix that up now. Okay, that's already working heaps better. I should have done that to begin with. Because I now have this connecting, this guy connecting up here, I decided to then put this ramp instead of connecting up to this road. And we'll just have to keep an eye on it because, again, I think there's going to be a fair amount of people trying to access the downtown through this road. But we'll just keep an eye on it and see how things go. Something that I will need to change up is I'm going to get rid of a couple of these because I think not every single road needs to connect in the middle there, to be honest. Otherwise, we're just going to see a lot of... We'll see a lot of U-turns. I think that's probably fine. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. It's going to get so busy, guys. This is going to get so incredibly busy. But don't worry. It's not just going to be traffic and interchanges that's going to be around here. We are going to, in the next episode, start working on some transportation, like some trains, some metro, of course, and also some monorail. Because Miami, the actual like downtown of Miami has this really fantastic and quite extensive monorail network, which actually, let me get up the map, which is on my other side like that. So this is how I usually operate. I usually have like 2 screens going at once, and I'll have like Google Earth open, and then I'll have the game open so I can work and get inspiration. But check out this whole like monorail network. It's pretty decent, and it seems to just be active in the downtown. I guess what I classify as a downtown, but it does some pretty tricky, intricate stuff by going into buildings, and I think part of it might go into a little bit of the into the burbs, but not so much. It's mostly around sort of like, you know, the downtown district, which is mostly around here. I don't think it quite makes its way over here. Yeah, I don't think so. It's still pretty good, and I would plan to do that in my one too, in my version of Miami. So I'm going to be doing that. That's pretty cool. Yeah, so we're going to be doing that, as well as a metro, because there is actually a pretty extensive metro line throughout Miami too, and it's all elevated metro, which is great because that's, you know, obviously just been introduced with the whole Sunset Harbor DLC. I was going to say Industries in a second, but yeah, so I'm going to be putting in some sort of network within the downtown just to get it all set up, and also starting to place down some buildings so that we get a little bit more of a downtown. And I dare say, after we get, look, that's probably what we're going to get time to do, to be honest. But I do plan, let's get rid of that. I do plan to get this much done in terms of plopping down buildings in the next episode, and also putting in the interchange for the interstate rail and the metro and the monorail network, and get that going around the downtown at least, and getting a bit of an idea where it's going to go further on in the city. I have started looking at, that's what's going on over here, if you didn't know. I've started like playing around with some of the hubs just to see what I can do, like placing, you know, I know that's already a metro line and under there, but I kind of want it above ground, like all above ground, not just above ground, but elevated. That's what I'm trying to say. So there's a couple of different hubs I can use, but I plan to splice them a bit, you know, doing stuff like this, obviously not that exactly because it's a little bit clunky, but potentially placing this metro line going through the other terminals of the hubs, because I think that might be an interesting way of doing things, but we'll see how we go. I'm going to keep on playing with this idea now. I'm going to leave this episode where it is. But guys, thank you so much for watching. It's very much appreciated. I hope you're enjoying the Miami series so far, and I'm pretty keen to show you all the stuff that we're going to get up to in the next episodes. Because as you can see, we're starting to get a bit of a downtown, and we're starting to really make progress in this. And what, we're up to episode 4, episode 5, I guess. But guys, thank you so much for watching. Very much appreciated. Before I go, I want to give a special shout out to some of my patrons like Nick Garn, Gator the God, and Staffy. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!